Okay. Kleida, thank you very much for joining Secure Insights. Delighted to have you on board. Thanks very much for taking the time for being here.
Thank you, Nick. A pleasure to be here.
So you are a managing director over at Glasswing Ventures, which is renowned for being one of the leading firms in the VC space for early stage AI tech and cybersecurity startup companies. Did you want to sort of shed some light before we dive into how sort of founders and VCs get together, a little bit more about Glasswing?
Absolutely. So Glasswing, we were founded in 2016, and since then we've been investing in AI native and frontier tech companies at the seed stage. And we look for companies that are serving problems in the enterprise and security markets. We're very thesis driven. And that for us means we invest in companies on the enterprise side that are solving problems in that human automation and productivity areas as those pertain to specific functions. And then where AI meets industry, so vertical
Mm,
AI. Think of them as the application of AI or computer vision in manufacturing, construction, supply chain logistics. And the flip side of that is security. And within
yeah.
security, cyber, identity, defense, third-party vendor risk, and the realm is pretty wide.
Excellent, cool, thank you. And so, when you guys look to invest in an organization, early seed, what do you look for in a founder? What are the kind of traits and signals that really stand out to you?
Yeah. Typically, we look for founders who have a deep understanding of the problem that they're solving and that conviction to really pursue it in a space where the answers aren't always obvious.
Mm,
Especially in AI and cybersecurity, the best founders have this rare and unique mix of technical depth, market intuition, and they can see that inflection point before others do, and they build both with it's important to build both with urgency and discipline. We always discuss internally, there's a lot of people who have vision, but the ones who stand out are the ones who can actually execute on it. So day after day, there's so much inevitable uncertainty and change. So how do you really follow through? So the signals we look for are all about how a founder operates. Do they learn fast? Can they translate complex ideas into something that the customers care about? Do they make decisions quickly with the imperfect information that they have at the time? And those are typically the patterns that compound over time. And when I think of our portfolio companies, that's what the founders mostly have in common. But both all of them who have the deep technical insight with the ability to build momentum and to execute on that insight. So they don't chase trends, they build the conviction early and execute relentlessly. So a great entrepreneur from your founder is again defined by the focus, adaptability, execution, and that's a formula that seems to have consistently turned those big ideas into those big enduring companies and real businesses.
Do you think that there's a kind of a shortage out there of founders that, are highly technical, they can architect, they've got really strong domain experience, but they kind of lack that GT and go to market sales side?
No one's perfect. No one has it all. That's why it's a team.
Yeah.
So typically the pair that we'll look for are those we see founders who have a CEO who has that business acumen and the go-to-market chops, and then that's really well paired with a CTO who has that technical AI insight that knows how to build a tech team, how to build the AI or the product with the AI that can serve the enterprise, how to scale the product larger. So it's a combination of the two.
Mm.
It's really a founding team that has those components together that can execute and build well or build a long-standing business.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, there's an awful lot of VCs out there, and you're very well respected. You're one of the top rated VCs in this space, and um, there's more sort of talk that founders obviously need more assistance and guidance, and for their path if they're going to go from pre-seed to seed. And you've got the what you call the AI palette framework that you operate, haven't you? Tell us about that.
The AI palette framework is something we had built in-house, and at the wake of ChatGPT about 3 years ago now, we open sourced it. And the idea of doing that is to build real clarity to a space that was becoming increasingly complex and noisy, especially when it comes with AI, what's throwing out everywhere. So again, the idea was to structure it in a way that that it can be easily understood and not just a set of buzzwords, but a system of how are all of these interdependent components that determine how really value is created with AI. So this framework was designed to help business leaders understand how to look at AI through a lens of real use cases, and help investors when it comes to looking at the defensibility when building AI native products. So the palette brings the layers of AI into focus per se. So looking at architectures, learning techniques, training methods, and data, and how all of these elements really interact to create the kind of intelligence. So if we were to look at I have the palette here on my screen, but at the core of it is really, it starts from the simple, it's AI, and whether that's classical machine learning or deep learning, and all of that runs on data. What kind of data are we looking at? Was the quality of data? How what's the structure? And all of these determines which methods are mostly effective and sophisticated when it comes to outcomes. And the palette is a complex one, and it's visual, which makes it a little bit easier to understand. But as it shows the classical machine learning, for example, you have regressions models, you have decision trees, and those usually perform best on structured and numerical data, where the relationships are mostly well defined when the tasks are deterministic. And that's for us, that's oh, pardon me. And on the other side, we have the deep learning architectures, things like convolutional neural networks or transformers, which we're all familiar with. And those are typically optimized for unstructured data such as images, videos, audio, natural language. So to make that more tangible, that's what really powers, for example, computer vision or voice interfaces and Gen AI systems.
So is this because this data is out there, isn't it, in the market? I think you make this available to. Is this available to your portfolio companies, or is this available to the wider community?
Frankly, both
Yeah.
for the founders and investors, a way to pinpoint where value is created and where defensibility really lives.
Hmm.
Um, for investors, is a way to look at there all of these there's so much around AI, but how do we really layer what are the technologies with data with the use cases? And for us too, it's a way of understanding where are the technology trends really going towards, and that changes with momentum. And when we back our companies, we typically look at where do they fall, how are they building their product and their data, what technologies, methodology, training methodologies, architectures they're leveraging, what kind of data they're using for that, and where is that applied in which use case. And for us, that's how we build, that's what we think a good defensible true AI native company is, one that pairs all of these together and does it well and fast. So it's a map, it's a compass for the founders, and for us too is we keep updating this as well. It's seeing where the trends are going and how this complex world is really even expanding larger with new breakthroughs.
So this is for the portfolio companies that they can use with their own products and the design phases and their sort of 2 year roadmap, let's say, in terms of their tech stack around AI and all the different layers. But you use it also for looking, identifying where's the value going in this
Mhm.
technology as well. So you're looking at potential founders and ideas, whether this is going to work in 12 months. Is it going to be required in 2 years' time? Are they going to be sucked up by some of the big guys?
Yes, yes and no, in the sense that um, we look at it, are also the founders who are very tech savvy, they need to be ahead of the marketing, to be ahead of the research and AI to, or at least keep up with it,
Mm.
to understand what is coming out and how to integrate that within our product and our technologies and architectures. How do we really keep that defensibility of our business when it comes from a tech perspective? And we're talking about companies that are very, very early stage where AI and tech, it still requires it still there needs to be a defensible moat, especially at the beginning, because that's the product you're going to market with. That's the one that your potential customers are using to value. That's where do you create truly the value for these businesses. And then as they grow, the defensibility, there's more color to the defensibility. We're talking about go-to-market motions, we're talking about distribution channels and strategies, but important to highlight that this very early stage where everything is AI, how do you really discern what's real AI, what's not real AI? And that's where the palette comes in. It's when you have this mapping that I don't think and I believe there's nowhere else to be found, when you can slice and dice it with, okay, we have all of these categories and all of these types of AI, what else do you need? So a lot of them are probably maybe out open source as well. But how to create, what are the layers underneath that make this robust early stage product and tech?
Yeah, it sounds awesome. It sounds, and that's why it was really good to talk about it and bring it out because, yeah, we haven't seen that combination before as well. So cyber security meeting AI, it's we're all talking about it. It's here, it's deep. Where do you see, I guess, the most sort of promising innovations emerging from this new sort of AI driven detection and monitoring and the threats? What are you seeing out there?
There's a lot happening in security and AI. That we have AI for security and security for AI. An area, frankly, that it's interesting and there's interesting innovation happening around it is the form of identity. And we've seen this. What is identity today with AI? Before used to be, just a key or the machine or the network or even the fingerprint or the face, and now you have AI doing all this kind of stuff. So
Mm.
it's become a new parameter. And that's where we see both offense and defense colliding. But on the defense side, we have identity threat detection and response, which is gaining momentum. And for those, we go beyond of typically in that the questions are well beyond of, did someone log in, or did there's a bad actor that logged in, or is this identity behaving abnormally?
Mm.
We backing a company, or we backed a company called Realm Security, which what they build is what they call an AI native security data pipeline. And that's a system that really applies machine learning directly to the stream of security telemetry to detect what's an anomaly, to score risk in real time, and to really surface those first signals faster. So their approach is to embed the intelligence into the data layer itself, so the threats can be identified and acted on with a lot of much greater precision. And then there's this whole explosion of machine non-human identities. So we have talking about um, service accounts, we're talking about APIs, IoT devices. So, and there's a new massive attack surface that's often invisible. And for that, we backed a company, one of mine called Kusari, which is helping organizations really map out the relationship of your tech stack and how to really secure those relationships across distributed systems. So when you have an attack coming in, or every organization these days is building with open source code. And once you carry that code into the organization, you don't know what else you're carrying along with it. And you can bring that into, you're building with it. But if there's a vulnerability, Quasari is able not only to identify it, but link it across the board where else it impacts it and shut it down. I was also going to touch on the offense side of this as well, where we have attackers leveraging AI for generating deep fakes. I think that's been one everywhere where
Yeah.
you see actually you see some of the Sora videos that some people just think it's true, and you don't. It's very tough to discern what's real, what's not, because these videos are looking pretty damn
Yeah.
darn to the
Yeah.
real world. Um, so we backed a company called Allure Security that does just that. And they so Allure Security really looks at what this company who's cloning your website, what is real, what is not, and has been doing that very well. And pretty very strong technology there too. Um, Last thing I'll mention, which is pretty important, as these companies are building with this security, is all of the risk that's coming as well from third-party vendors. And Black Kite is a company of ours that really provides that visibility into what are your vendors choosing to, or where is the risk within organizations coming in when it comes to vendors? How do you really um, pinpoint how protected or not are you? So there's many areas of where security meets AI that are really top of mind. Another one that I'll mention on, especially on as I think about identity, is name tag. And they are really rethinking how digital identity verification for the enterprise is conducted these days. So there's a lot happening with security. So we're staying on top of it.
So offense and defense, we're staying on top of it, and there's a heap of fantastic tech out there now. Um, but obviously AI is also, in the hands of the bad guys. Who do you see? Have you seen a trend one way or another that is one side is kind of ahead, winning the war?
I'd like to think the good guys are winning the
Yeah,
war. Um, and it's when it comes to the AI generated risks, in a way, we don't know what we don't know what's coming, or
yeah,
we don't know what's coming. So the best bet is today is to make to really invest in the founders that have seen their story repeat in the past, have some insight as to how this new tech will impact our identity, or will impact how we
mm,
conduct business, and build solutions that are truly that can combat that. Um, and those who have, again, as I mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation, is the folks who have that industry insight and the technical ability to see through this what's coming around the corner. Um, so my hope is the good guys are winning.
yeah. Here, here.
We
So,
shall
indeed, indeed. So, I guess if you look at when you're trying to scale, or a founder, co-founders, they're trying to scale a AI or cyber security tech startup from C to Series A. That's their goal. What are I guess this question really is for potential founders that are out there, whether they're in sort of head of product type roles now, and they're planning to go into a startup type of environment. What are the milestones do you look for at each stage from sort of pre-seed to Series A?
Mhm. So we invest our bread and butter is seed and then pre-seed, and at the A we participate, we do our pro rata, and we have
Yeah,
pretty reserves to support our founders for the product. Typically for the seed, the seed is mainly to build that tech, to build that product, to test it out, have those design partners. So when we look to investing at the pre-seed, we look, it's the team, who is building it, where are they coming from, why is this a pain point, what's the market looking like, what are the competitors doing, and how well funded are they, and why do we think this team will grow fast? What's their, it all sounds theory, but there's more to the founding team truly. And then as they use that pre-seed time or round to build, test, fail, build again, and have those first design partners. When we get to the seed is where that go-to-market motion really comes in. How do you go and land? And that's where we help a ton, and we're very hands-on to make introductions to real enterprise customers. But the seed is, where can you find those first few customers? How do you land them? How do you speed up that sales motion? From there, can you really prove, or would like to see a couple of proof points where you have expanded and or hopefully renewed a couple of those customers? And the go to have being a partner for these companies, our goal is to shrink that go-to-market time from a year or so to a couple of months, so we can see this repeatable motion. Because when we go to the A, you want to, Series A investors are looking for that product market fit. And the proof is in the pudding. If you have a couple of good customers, good renewals, retention rates, expansions, then it technically should be an easier conversation into the A. The one thing I'd mention is that the criteria or the KPIs, the benchmarks to raise each of these rounds has shifted in the last couple of months. If I were to compare companies going from C to A today when with a year or year and a half ago, those ARR benchmarks have changed. A year ago or so, we're looking for Series A investors, we're looking for 1 to 1.5 million ARR when it comes to expectations for the founders. And today that's doubled to 2.5 to 3.
Mm.
And there's reasons that that's happened, where it's easier to build with AI. There's a whole appetite from enterprise customers to use or to buy solutions or to test out solutions. And that's why this revenue progression is, or revenue velocity is higher. What we typically like to see as well is, while this revenue velocity is there, what's the durability of this revenue of these customers? It may seem like it's easier to sell into customers right now because there's this pull and push, both forces, pull and push, happening at the same time. But will that continue 6 months from now, a year from now? Again, goes to velocity is there and can be there, but is the durability still there? Is the stickiness, well, does that still exist, and will it be there a year from now? And so when we go to invest in the companies at the seed pre-seed, we have those expectations of the Series A in mind, Series A investors and criteria in mind. So we coach and help and partner with this startup so they can build the strong foundation with that set of criteria in mind.
And it is because then the revenue demand, because of all the new tech and AI and stuff, has gone to the 2.5, 3 million, like you say. Has the time frame to get to Series A, has that shortened as well because of expectation and demand?
Exactly.
Mm.
Yes, it has, and we're seeing a lot of companies fundraise really quickly. Typically, the fundraise process has been, you raise a seed of 5 million for 18 to 24 months. It's way faster this time around. We see companies raising rounds within the year or within the next 12 to 15 months that they have done the prior round. So
Mm.
both the velocity of revenue and the velocity of fundraising for the next round the rate of it has gone up.
So if I was looking to if I was looking to do a startup C to Series A, what's that timeline look like?
Um, we've seen companies go within the year to C to A. However, if you're building, for me, if you're building real AI, if you're building real solution that you're selling to the enterprise, that timeline doesn't really, it's longer than that.
Yeah,
Um, we, building real AI is not easy, because I know there are tools. It's easier than before because of the speed of deployment and the speed of building today, but
yeah,
that shouldn't really jeopardize the performance of the system. They shouldn't jeopardize the outcome of how these models are behaving. Where is the human in the loop? How will this perform, go from a test environment to a production and live environment? So there's a lot of the aftermath of this systems and that are being built to be considered pretty harshly because they're getting deployed to an enterprise. And selling into the enterprise, it's easier than selling to, or the sales cycle is longer, I should say, than
yeah.
selling to B2C or smaller companies. So
Mm.
in a way, we're seeing a shorter time to go race from C to A, but at the same time, there are companies who are building this, who are selling to manufacturing, for example, or construction, and they take their own time.
Mm. And with that, then, so there's that journey that the companies take. There's a path that they're on, and they may have a couple of customers and so on through the aid of the VC that's invested in them. What's the stage? If I was looking to start my company, when am I looking to bring a go-to-market team in or somebody to really steer the growth of that and marketing and all that kind of stuff? And what level as well of person do I bring in?
Assuming if you don't have the go-to-market chops yourself,
Yeah.
because typically at this stage, a lot of the sales are founder-led sales. The founder and the co-founder or someone, you probably have a salesperson, helps you generate these deals, go close them. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of hand-holding a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
But typically the Series A, you think of when you have a lot more customer demand, you have customers that are renewing, and you want to keep them happy. That's when, and you want to explore a lot of more go-to-market options and expand your pipeline. That's when you tend to break and go-to-market, either help or expertise, or expand it if the founder has a DNA in him or herself. So at the Series A, we see teams expand, or we see founding teams expand their team with those critical roles of go-to-market or VP of sales or CROs,
Yeah.
which really create those a more continue to create the fundamental pillars of a good enduring business.
Yeah. So I'm really looking at that sort of year and a half ish, 2 years or 18 months or so, sleeves rolled up, organized chaos, hands on. Everyone's doing everything before we start settling into these sort of bigger pillars of teams and so on.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Good to know. Good to know. So there's a massive shift, isn't there, now in the rise of agents and stages of development as well. What's Glasswing's or your perspective on where agents fit into, I guess, the current AI landscape?
hmm This is very timely, Nick, because we just issued our agent autonomy framework yesterday. So it's very fresh in mind. But the way we look at agents and the rise of agents, it goes beyond the chatbots or the co-pilots that were the hype for the last couple of years.
Mm,
And it's a lot more deeper. So how we think about agents is this, in 5 stages, and these stages are measured on three main criteria. We'll look at the impact. What's the impact of an agent that is delivering in the real world? The
yeah,
capabilities. What are the capabilities that the agent actually has? And cognition. How well it reasons? How can it reason? Can it adapt? Can it learn? And across all of these dimensions, as I mentioned, we mapped out five types of agents that are emerging. I'll briefly walk through those stages. The first one we have is the scripted responders. These are agents that are very much rule-based. They follow instructions. They handle narrow tasks. It's kind of the chatbots we're used to when you ask what are the hours of a store, and they just give you verbatim what the hours of the store are, but they can't really they don't learn. They're automated. And then we move on to predictive assistants, which are maybe a V2 of these of the bots that I just described. And these are systems that, for example, anticipate a little bit your need. They use the data and models to suggest a couple of next steps. So, for example, if you were to ask a chatbot, is the store closed today? And the time is 7 p.m. and the store closes at 6, you'd be able to understand that 7 is past 6, hence the store is closed. But again, it's just one one step, an inch further of it not understanding the question. Stage 3 is where things shift a little bit, where we have adaptive orchestrators. This is where, to us, things start getting exciting, because these agents are not just reacting, but they're coordinating. They can manage multi-step workflows. They can they can call different tools, different APIs. There's more to how they function, and technically they can understand and reason a little bit more and learn from feedback, which is really important. And this is where you start to see some portion of some autonomy take shape. Um, Stage 4 for us is we have collaborative systems. These are agents that work alongside people and alongside other agents. So it's a system of agents working together. For example, they keeping up with this with the same illustration that I mentioned. If you were to ask for a refund, for example, we have an agent that can look at the your buyer history. That we have an agent that can negotiate the decision and compare and contrast the rules, the preset rules, with what you bought. Another agent that interacts with you, and all of these. So it's more of a system working together. So they work with each other to get to a final decision. And then finally, after that, is stage 5 for us, is where we get to ambient agents, we call them. And to us, these are almost this is the operating system in a way. They sit inside the workflows. They operate quietly in the background and then continue learning. I think that's really important, that they continue learning and acting without being prompted. So it's like having an on some it's like having like an always on type of a layer of intelligence that's woven throughout the enterprise. So we see this. I frankly I love this framework, because it shows a scope, and the spectrum, not the scope, but the spectrum of what the agents are able to do and can do. And it's a real progression. It's autonomy is not binary. So it truly shows that the spectrum of breadth and depth that agents can do, both from a chatbot to bring you real autonomy and making strategic decisions for the enterprise. Um,
So thank you very much for walking us through that, because I did see that the other day actually, that you launched that, and since Glasswing, you invest at early stage agent native type startups. Have you created this framework to assess investment opportunities, and assessing the tech stack of an agent native startup? Are you using for assessing and or your current portfolio?
we created this to really map or showcase our thinking when it comes to agents, because agents became very much of a buzzword.
Yeah.
And not all of them are created equal, and there needs to be an understanding as to what are how different are these agents and what are we looking at? Where are we today in terms of the agents? And I think we're between that stage 3 and 4 that I mentioned. Um, what is the enterprise? What are the expectations of the enterprise that wants to adopt agents? What is the realistic technology? What can the technology deliver today when it comes to agents? Where is the gap? And in a way, providing that clarity and insight as to they're not all the same. There is a spectrum, and for some of them, there needs to be maybe one or two more technological breakthroughs to happen
Mm.
for it to completely click. So for us, it's two things. One, to showcase how we think about agents, and there is a spectrum of agents, and they are in stages. And two, to make to showcase to our founders that figure out in a way where the agents that you're leveraging for your startup, where do they fit within the 5 stages. And within that, how are you thinking about, for example, when it comes to cognition, how are you thinking about the feedback loop? How are you thinking about reinforcement learning? And what are all the subcategories underneath it that we look for? So in a way, it's also telling the potential new founders that we look for these things, we look for the criteria, we ask for it. That's what makes a real AI native agentic system, is having these conversations and having discussing this type of criteria to build a good system, and not one that can be ripped and replaced within a couple of months.
And I guess with that, then looking at sort of the next emerging kind of technical trends out there, like you said, it kind of needs another couple of breakthroughs just to really sort of tie all of this together and really drive everything home. Because there's a lot of there's still quite, I mean, there's some fantastic organizations coming through, real innovators, some real, quick growth companies adding huge value. Equally, there's quite a few of maybe mirroring technologies that have got sort of slim AI capability on top of something a little bit polished, and there's not much sort of depth there. And what are you seeing out there in terms of new trends around, let's say, example, the LoRa and sort of the fine tuning to multi-model systems. Not looking to get too technical deep here because obviously that's not our bag.
Um, there's a lot that's happening. I think one big shift that I'm excited about is physical AI. So the idea that the intelligence is moving off the screen and into the
Mm,
real world. And you're actually, speaking of agents, we're seeing that with agents that are embedded in robots or physical systems that can sense, reason, and act in real environment. So it's a blend of autonomy and, in a way, embodiment, where AI doesn't just predict outcome, it actually interacts with the real world. That's one. A second one with that I would mention is AI at the edge. So that's becoming a theme as well. So we've hit a point where inference can run on small devices, on-prem, and even inside sensors. So that unlocks a couple of privacy, real-time decision making, resilience, and we can see this especially in cybersecurity or industrial systems or even critical infrastructure. Um, you mentioned LoRa and Q LoRa too, and they are their development in the perimeter. They call perimeter efficient fine tuning,
yeah.
and those are really changing the economics of innovation by letting startups customize large models without this massive compute bill. So you can
Mm,
fine tune faster, cheaper, and often get better performance in domain specific contexts.
mm,
Um, Next, I would mention we have multimodal and agentic systems again, so models that can understand text, image, voice, video, and then structured data together. And so they're in a way powering the next wave of reasoning agents that work across workflows and live in different silos. So to me, if we were to put all of this together, I believe the next frontier is not just about one breakthrough. It's about the convergence, like the convergence of many of those. Like we have physical AI that meets edge AI. You have agentic system or intelligent that meets these systems. Um, you have, as I mentioned earlier, like security, a secure computation that can meet this real-time autonomy. So there's an intertwining of elements in the next breakthroughs that are creating the next frontier.
And I think, I mean, there's a lot there. There's an awful lot there, isn't there? And given that, I mean, if you look at today, how founders are creating companies, and they're on this fast fast track to break through uh, and become a successful organization. What do you think it will look like in 3, 4, 5 years' time when the next generation of founders are coming through? I mean, with you just mentioned it yourself, coming off screen, going physical. So robotics, that's a huge layer coming through, isn't it? That's going to really sprout out in the next, I think, probably 12, 18 months or so. What do you think the landscape will look like if I was looking to do this 3, 4, 5 years down from there? And I know that you can't, you don't have a sort of magic ball, but what's your thoughts on that?
I think the essence of the founder and how the founders behave, operate, or the what makes the secret sauce of the founder, I think, will remain there. You have the hustle, you need to have the domain expertise to stay on top of the technology. I think that core criteria of how you operate, can you learn fast, can you adapt, can you build fast, and then take feedback, incorporate it. I think they will still remain there. So to me, it's a matter of, I think that the learning curve is steeper. So someone who can actually grasp that information, process it quickly, and then find a way to adapt it into whatever they're building and learn fast. But again, as I say that out loud, that criteria has always been true for every
Mm,
hustler of a founder.
yeah.
So to me, it starts with the team, and it starts with their capabilities and their drive and their ability to execute on their vision. And when it comes to the technology and space itself, I mean, it's me as an investor, it's pretty exciting to see what's going to come out. No, how, and I see this impacts everyone, those who are building and aren't, in the sense that we are training even the new generation of students that are coming out. They're growing up with learning data science in high school or learning about vibe coding now, so everyone can be a builder. So it's exciting to see where this next generation is going through and where they will be building. As sorry, I'll stop there. I was going, I was going
Exciting.
to I was going to make a comment that one of a previous investor mentioned, but I don't think
Okay, no worries. It's exciting times anyway. There's a lot to look forward to. And one last question: if you were, because you're on that side, you're on the investor side, so you're really experienced at assessing and so on, and experience in that space. But if you were on the other side and you were coming to market, you were a founder, what advice would you give? What would be the biggest piece of advice that you would give if you were looking to get and attain investment? Because there's an awful lot of venture capitalists and options out there at different levels, and it's quite time consuming. It's draining. Maybe you're not experienced at doing it. What would be the advice to give somebody on that side?
I'll say the ones that for me have worked really well is those founders who have created the relationship early and then have kept me in the loop as to how they're progressing.
Mm,
Even if it's tech, product, or shown us, I would say, how the release of the Google's AI studio, for example, is impacting or not their business and how they think about that. So I'm very curious. Like that's driven by me as well, and I know I'm representing Glasswing. So in a way that the founder that keeps following up, the founder that shows me the progress of their product, um, that takes the feedback. We all have thoughts and feedback, but takes can filter through what's valuable to the product at that moment in time, and where to park the rest. So that continued relationship, I think at the end of the day, it's we're getting into business and deals with these founders for 10 years or more. So how do we work together, and having a proof prior to investing as to how the relationship will go, and how we challenge ourselves in certain areas when we're thinking about the business model, tech. Typically, I enjoy those the most. And to your point, it does take time. You can't do this with every investor. It can be exhausting. But to me, that's sometimes when you click, that's the fun of it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess communication is a huge thing, isn't it? But with all the latest tech and AI noise out there, it still funnels back to that building the relationship. You know, that core value is still very much there, isn't it? And I guess you want to
I
kind of you want to get to know the VC and the individuals that you're going to be working with potentially to see whether there's a fit culturally, idea wise, assistance, help, vision, all that kind of stuff, isn't
that's where we frankly pride ourselves, and is being able to help these founders day in and day out. If it's talent, customers, fundraising, very hands-on to at the extent that they need the help, we're there for them. And we do this, that is how we win deals as well. This is we don't typically compete on price, but we show, as I expect founders to show their proof in the pudding when it comes to their business and what they're building. Same thing with us. We work hard to make very qualified and exclusive connections in our network, so then those can be served to our founders, either for diligence or turn into contracts. And we help them, frankly, regardless of the stage, pre-seed, seed. We have companies that have raised the A, B,
it?
C onward. We're still there, and we provide tremendous value, and sometimes more than multi-stage VCs who have deep pockets. So it's all about that. Like, how can we help each other succeed, both succeed?
Excellent, excellent. Kleida, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you spending some time to jump on the show. It was great to talk through some of these steps and different stages of what's happening out there in the ecosystem. And it's really exciting to see how it all is going to pan out in the next 2, 3 years. Maybe we'll do another one in 2 years' time to see where we're at. But yeah, again, really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nick. Looking forward to it again.